Okay. Greetings, everyone. We are live, high vibrations. Uh, so we're back. We're back to continue our discussion from yesterday about the origins of the compulsory educational system, but also we're going to be talking about the dark side of education. There's more to be discussed. So we couldn't cover it all yesterday in one show. So I have my distinguished guest back today, Chief Rod Hayes, and welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you, sweetie. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
Yes.
So yesterday we went over like the purpose of modern education versus how we raise our children. And toward the end, I was mentioning some things that you wanted to go deeper into,
Yes.
and that's the dark side of education, the human trafficking aspect.
Hmm.
So, like 99% of the parents have no clue that there's trained spotters to determine which children they're gonna snatch up at the schools.
Mhm.
They study the child and the family dynamic. The ones that's not gonna be noticed missing for a day or two is the first ones they're gonna come for because they need that head start to get them underground in the network. In 24 hours, they can have them as far away as China.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. See, and
So
I didn't. Mhm.
you remember recent cases, right? So they got the Amber Alert because of what happened to little Amber,
Right.
right? And if you
Yes.
study that case, do you remember the little girl named Elizabeth Smart?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
do.
And then you remember John Bonet. John Bonet was part of the trafficking of Ghislaine Maxwell. And she was in with, they had pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell and John Podesta at the Ramsey's home on the night of the killing.
But wasn't that girl kind of like high profile? Her parents were wealthy, so she people would notice her.
Well,
You know.
her mother emerged from child trafficking herself.
Wow.
They try to keep them because they keep it a secret when they raise keeping it a secret.
I see.
When
Okay.
they
The same.
forced Ramsey at gunpoint to write that letter, her mother,
Wow.
and that's why it was difficult to track the letter, and they kept saying that it was in her mother's handwriting.
Didn't she end up dying like of cancer or something?
Yeah,
The mother? That
yeah,
was a lot to
but
deal
she
with.
really died of misery.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
She
yeah.
was under the threat of losing the rest of her kids the same way or worse if she said anything. The siblings don't know no better. They not none the wiser to. They don't have a clue what the fuck going on.
This is serious. And
So
yeah.
everything that we everything we think is normal
Mhm.
is either a tool of oppression, exploitation, or child trafficking. None of this shit ain't normal. But they normalize it step by step. So by the time you realize what's going on, you fully engulfed in a situation that you don't can't see a way out of. Parents got to understand these are not just you're not just sending your child to get an education. First, you sending them to be trained for a slave, and then while they training them to work to fill the prisons and the workforce, they're also looking for the little boys and the little girls that they want to traffic.
This is so
Remember, it wasn't
disgusting.
us that came up with the milk box plan. It was some people that don't look like us. That was one of the most smartest power moves, and they were all mothers, right? We don't remember that stuff.
I remember the milk box thing. I do remember that on the milk carton
They
and then a
lobbied
picture in the
Congress.
newspapers.
Yeah, they lobbied Congress to put the face of missing children on the milk boxes because they said that's the only common denominator in America with children is milk.
Yes. Yes, everybody bought milk
right?
back then.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so a group of mothers came up with that idea. It's the same with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Death by drunk driving used to be a traffic ticket until MAD came along.
Oh,
So we got to realize the power that the mothers have in cleaning
yes,
this shit up.
yes,
All we have to do is stop letting them deceive our sisters, and they're not going to participate in the deception.
yes. That is facts. That is facts. This is why this discussion is so important because I I don't want to make people feel bad, but it's like it's so important to say this because I know a lot of women that still send their children to school now. You know, they say it's because I mean maybe that particular school, maybe they feel like, well,
My school, okay, my school is good. There is no good school that is not a charter or homeschool. And then only a certain percentage of the charter schools are good.
and that, and this is what I want women to see. Number one, it's like you said, things have been normalized, and it's been normalized to basically entrust your children with strangers. We really don't know these people. Let's just
We
keep it real.
not entrust them with strangers, entrust them to an enemy that swore your demise at all costs. We ain't just trusting them to strangers. That's another animal. We trusting them with people that swore the death of our children and our progeny to kill off the kings and the princes of the land so we can't defend ourselves. These are the people we sending our children to.
You know, uh, this is I'm going to pose. I'm going to play the opposite side because I know that there's women out here who would say this. Okay, so
Hmm?
I'm just going to pose this to you now.
Only way to get the answer is to ask the question.
Yes, so I'm just going to be one of those women that send their children to school, okay? Well, my children have a good teacher. They really care. They come over to our house for dinner. I know these people. We're like family. What would you say to mothers like that?
That, well, if you know the teacher that well, you need to make a homeschool program and stop, because it's not just the teacher. You got teachers that are awesome.
Yes,
They will spend their last dime to get a pack of pencils for the children in their class,
yes.
but the teacher next door is trained to spot children for trafficking,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Some of the teachers are involved in sexual escapades with the children that they supposed to be trafficking, right? That's why they made a big deal out of all of these teachers that these boys, these young boys, 12, 14, was having affairs with their teacher, right?
Yeah.
That used to be just a local news story.
Mm-hmm.
That's not new.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's not new.
Mm-hmm.
But why did it become a national news story? It become a national news story because they got to give you an opportunity to discover anything they're using as a tool of oppression. If you don't have the opportunity to discover what they're doing to you and your children so that you can defend yourself and you fail to defend yourself, they relieved of the karmic debt.
Okay.
So that's why they can get away with it. They probably be like, well, how can they get away with they get away with it because the parents is being consenting contributors without their knowledge. It's an adhesion contract, a take it or leave it unknown contract.
That's why I just keep. I just posted a news story about somebody else in Sacramento. I'm in California, right? And there's another news story about a child in a middle school in Sacramento just having inappropriate relations with the teacher. It's just like everything just keeps coming out. It's
Those teachers,
consistent.
9 out of 10, were groomed to be spotters, and then they fell into the trap. They was just supposed to do what you call the soft sell with the child, see if they seducible.
I'm just so tired of this. I'm
We
so
don't
tired.
have to, we gotta wake up. We gotta get our head out of our behinds and start seeing what's in front of us. Our children are bigger targets than the adults.
Facts.
It's
Facts.
easier to raise a child and make him forget the parents that he'll just believe that his parents left him because that's what the kidnapper gonna tell him. Or your mama sold me to you for $50, and it won't be true. But after the child been hearing this from the time they was 4, and the time they 14, they big enough, strong enough, smart enough to leave, but they don't give a fuck no more. They have no zeal for life left. Everything they have is a loyalty under Stockholm syndrome. They've been thoroughly indoctrinated with Stockholm syndrome that they can't break free from and then if the parent comes along, right,
Mhm.
then they won't accept the parent because the Stockholm syndrome convinced them the parent abandoned them, betrayed them. And if the parent don't have a track record, a long list of I've been searching for you the whole time, they can't change that child's mind. Right? So now parents that with missing children have to study cult deprogramming. Cult deprogramming is of actual curriculum. Every parent needs to start studying it because they're going to end up with somebody's orphan. It's
Say
not
the
going to
name of
be
that.
enough. It's not going to be enough of us willing to take orphans um, without recruiting more of us. It's a lot of them. It's a lot of children that's been extracted from underground tunnels, been taken out of cages and mansions around the world that need to be socialized just to competent and good-hearted adults, and they need competent and good-hearted adults to teach it. And some of them teenagers, it's not going to be so easy to help them. So we need strong-minded, strong-willed adults that got a lot of love in them to aid in raising of these children and to help them recover from the trauma they've been through. Some of them is incorrigible. There's nothing you can do to help them at this point. And at that point, they're going to put themselves in a hostile position in the future that's going to allow them to be taken off the planet because the trauma's too deep. They can't shake the trauma.
Now, when you're talking about these orphans, are you talking about children that are in foster care, or where are these children at that you're speaking about?
A lot of them on military bases right now. They got whole military bases that was closed right now that's been turned into a makeshift orphanage to receive these children that the white hats under the Bush administration, I mean under the Trump administration, been extracted. They've even gotten children out of cages in well-known politicians' houses. We just haven't been told yet. This is bad, and I'm on a campaign to shake people loose. Wake up. Stop sending your child to these people. They don't mean us no good. They came over here to replace us. And the only way they can replace us is if we surrender. And the only way to not surrender is to secure your child first.
This is so big, and as you said, it's the programming is so deep because I'm just going to say like this: when I started my journey with homeschooling my children, my family was against me. And they said, your child won't be socialized. They'll grow up, weird, and just all the things that you hear. Um, and then when 2020 came, my, people were knocking at my door and calling my phone because I had been homeschooling all those years, and a lot of people didn't even know. Right now, for whoever's watching, I want you to know I watch the headlines closely as it relates to anything homeschool, what they're doing in the public schooling system. And I'm here to tell you, they're always telling you what they're going to do. They're telling you, oh, now we have to go to e-learning on Fridays. They're always switching up the curriculum, switching up. I just read an article the other day about children need to express themselves, and there was a DRAG show for after school, and it's like, who is this for? I just, you know I get excited. I can't help everybody. I can't take everybody into my home. You know, I can't take all these children into my home as much as I want to. I don't have it like that. But I just want to encourage the families to really just, it's better if you do it. It's better if you educate your children, even if you say, look, I'm not a scholar, at least say, you know what, I can teach them how to, wash dishes. I can teach them how to fish. I can teach them how to, whatever, life skills. That's better than what they're going to get in school because you love them. You love them. And you want to see them be better than you in this world.
So
And that's
let's
what it's all
simplify
about.
it. Some mothers work and they say I work so I can't homeschool. Hold on. Let me answer it.
And I got one for that too.
Hold on. Every mama don't work.
No.
Get so if I got a sister that work and a sister that don't work, the sister that don't work, she's going to be there to receive my sister that work children, and I'm going to help her to teach them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you can get just a group of 4 to 5 women like that, you don't need no 20 women.
Hmm.
If two work, they help support the ones that's teaching the children that don't work. You eliminate daycare altogether, and you eliminate school. But this is the easiest path, right? You got a cousin that's a good-hearted person. They so quiet, don't nobody really realize it. But here they is, 20, 21 years old, and they still live with their mama, but they stay in their room all day.
Yeah. We've got
That's
people
your
like that.
teacher waiting to be activated, right? So it's the structure of home education is the ones who are not providing substance has to supplies the mental sustenance. The one
Mhm.
who supplies the substance, then they exchange substance for sustenance,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Yes.
So this is to keep it in the as more control group as possible. The problem is, okay, so the big thing that we need to get mothers to look for, we need all mothers and fathers who's taking children to school, the kidnap van. These kidnap vans are designed specifically for child abduction and young women abduction. Some of the children, they allow them to grow into adults before they take them because they want them as an adult, because they're going to fit a order that they have. These billionaires order like they got a catalog. They give you a description of what they want, and the word go through the network, and they be like, "Here she is in a little small town outside of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, with a population of 200 people. Ain't nobody gonna notice the bitch missing. Go get her."
Wow.
Then they also got the ones who's killing the children in order to harvest their organs. So you might be able to go about your whole life until you 30 years old. Now they need your organ. They need your heart. They doing this by tracking your medical record. They cross-reference your medical record with your profile. This is not a secret. They show it to us in pop culture, and we ignore it. The whole concept of raising the children with drags as the preferred entertainment is a deliberate intentive attack on the masculinity of males and the femininity of the females. They figure if they can turn us against each other, the women will stop producing the males, breaking the gender contract. The women are the only one can change the contract because they're the ones who created amongst women. And this is why it's so few men born in relation to women. But the
Mhm.
men that are here supposed to be of exceptional quality for the women. But the invaders come and they diminish the quality of the
Yeah.
men, and they take them from being a man to a male, right? So now The kidnap van, it's real critical that mothers know what it looked like. It looked like a regular plain work van. Normally they white, but
Mhm.
some places they use colors. The main thing to look for is you cannot see anything in the back of the van, and the windows in the front, the side windows in the front are normally tinted.
Okay.
They normally have something blocking the back windows, but on the outside, it's an external locking mechanism, like a door lock from the outside, so they can't escape from the inside. If you just so happen to walk past
Mm.
when the doors is open on it, they're about to snatch a child or a young lady. So this is what it looks like on the inside. It looks like it's been carpeted all the way over because they use the styrofoam soundproofing as insulation for the carpet. So they back there in the back of the van screaming their lungs out, but can't nobody hear them outside of the vehicle because it's
Wow.
soundproof. So it's critical we be aware of that. And taxis in cities that don't normally use taxis that just stay parked at the schools, don't trust them. They tell the children your mama sent you a cab, and they show them a picture of them. She gave me this picture, and she told me to pick you up and bring you home. The child doesn't know to look and realize that it's a picture of them going to school that their mama couldn't have possibly took. Yeah, the human trafficking thing is bad. The adrenochrome harvesting, the organ harvesting is bad. It's coming to an end, but as long as we support that system, it's harder for us that's trying to clean it up to get it cleaned up.
You said something about they're telling us about the organ harvesting and things like this in the pop culture.
Yeah, they
Can
use
you
turn into jokes normally.
so can you like name some
Yeah,
maybe
it's
like
a Steve
a movie
Harvey
reference?
episode, right?
Okay.
Steve Harvey was putting some stuff on his hands, and the lady was like, "Yeah, Oprah loves this. This is what she puts on her face for wrinkle cream." And when Steve Harvey was like, "What is it?" She was like, "It's the foreskin and the fetuses."
I think I've heard that once. I think I saw something like
Right.
that.
And then
Yes.
there's another one where Betty White recently passed,
Right.
right? And they was asking her secret to long life, and she was like a glass of virgin blood every day
And she said it with a straight face, huh?
as a joke. They tell it
Right.
as a joke, so you don't. Did you just take it as it was a joke? Ah, she's just joking. She's just dicking around. I don't. She don't mean that yet. She mean
Yes.
every bit of what she said. Remember when they declared Mel Gibson insane right around the
Yes.
time of the
Yes.
Passion of Christ?
Yes. Yes.
You know what it was that made them declare him insane, right?
No.
He called the police at a Hollywood party because there was a child dressed up for the party in the refrigerator for it was a meal, right? But when the police got there, the owner of the house said that Mel Gibson was having a psychological breakdown, and it wasn't true. The police never searched; they took Mel away, and the people went on about their party. And then they started saying he was insane. Another one who blew the whistle on him is Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves doesn't do anything with Hollywood elites. You never see him at Hollywood elite gatherings because he already blew the whistle on him, and he most of his movies is filmed in Europe. Rarely do he work in the States because the JDL is star whackers and they out for his head.
Really? Because he's up there. So I thought I don't, he's up there. So I'm like, okay, he's got to be in the mix.
No, his whole career has been to expose them. He started off as a teen star. You got to remember
I,
that.
I
So he
remember that.
was exposed to the trafficking early on when he first came to Hollywood. This is why they wanted to. This is why they had to get rid of Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson was paying for the security for child stars that came to him for help. He was
I
paying.
heard that.
He was literally coming out of his money, paying millions of dollars a month for security for multiple of these young child actors who can't protect themselves. And most of the people that he hired was FOI security because he didn't trust none of the rest of them. So now you don't know why you have this ominous looking Negro hovering over this 8-year-old blonde haired, blue eyed baby. That's
Okay.
a Justin Bieber's. All of these kids, River Phoenix, all of them were going to Michael for help. And this is why they got rid of him. He was getting in their way. He was getting in their way and he was getting on their nerves. And he outsmarted them in business. This nigga gotta go. But we take it all as a joke. The
Mm-hmm.
whole R. Kelly case was to show y'all that a motherfucker don't need to go nowhere. They gonna feed the child to him. When you go back over those stories, almost all of them, he met those girls in the studio.
Yeah,
R.
I heard
Kelly
that.
didn't leave the studio. Who's
I
bringing
heard
in the
that.
children and why are they not being charged?
The families, weren't the families doing it?
Different. Sometimes it was his handlers. That's why they didn't get charged because they his handlers. Their job was to make sure they got enough dirt to tear his career down. Now you see they about to release it.
Okay, I hadn't heard
The
that.
site said that R. Kelly was a idiot savant.
Okay,
He's
I heard.
intellectually a sixth grader. I have been telling people that the whole time, and they thought I was just taking up for R. Kelly. But they don't
Wow.
listen to what I'm telling them. I'm not exonerating R. Kelly. R. Kelly, he's retarded.
Yeah.
My problem is I want them niggas that brought them babies to him.
Yeah.
I want them to be the ones arrested and charged,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like right now, if a competent adult knows that there's a psych patient and he's feeding them children for whatever purpose, sexual purposes, food purposes, or even just social entertainment, whatever it is, it's the competent adult who's responsible for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Stop holding the victims responsible for being victimized.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
R. Kelly was the same amount victim as those little girls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If he's mentally retarded, then it's
He's
not
the
really
musical genius, an
right.
intellectual retard.
Yeah, I had heard that. This is all very. There was some, like I said, there were some things that I knew, but I didn't. I knew about the human trafficking part, but that was fairly recent. I recently found that out, but I didn't put two and two together as far as just how the schools are they're used as a way to kind of get a lot of these victims. It's not just, some random thing. It's like a whole operation. It's a whole operation. And I
It,
didn't know that. And I'm so grateful that
and it's
you're
being
spreading
ran by
awareness.
some of the most brilliant minds on the planet. That's the crazy part. You got top military generals strategizing for these people. They retirees or whatever. Some of them was into it too. Some of them, the easiest ones to get involved are the former victims.
Wow.
It was a brother out of Wisconsin who used to be the number one supplier of children to the DC elites, the political elites. He got caught, but he was one of the fastest rising Democratic leaders in the '80s that we don't never hear about. But that was his power hold. He was the one who came up with using the pizza parlor as the cover. He looked like us, but he ain't us.
um, what I'm hearing in this discussion is if the former victims are helping to keep this thing going and keep and strategizing how to supply children to new customers, then what I'm seeing here is that people really need to heal. And you mentioned earlier in the video, because we need to be able to break the cycle of this. So you mentioned earlier in the video about some kind of book. It was called Cult Conditioning or something. Could
Right.
you repeat that?
Deprogramming cult victims. It's not a book, it's a whole field of psychology. But they do have
Okay.
books, but it's the entire field of
Okay.
psychology on how to deprogram cult victims.
Okay.
So
Um,
a lot of mothers that's children probably raised going out the house are going to start taking orphans. They need to know this information.
can you name anybody that you know in your circle that people can go to maybe how to help these children, or maybe if they're a victim themselves, you could say, hey, I know this person, you can go over there if you've been victimized. Is there anybody that you could name that you would recommend for the
Well,
listeners
it depends on the
for
severity
either
of the
one of
child.
those two scenarios?
It depends on the severity of the trauma to the child. But right now, most of the ones that I'm talking about that's real bad, they're on military bases. And some of the
Okay.
boys are so violent, they have to stay locked up like prisoners. Not because they're prisoners, because they're going to hurt somebody. Yeah. It's horrible as you think. But this is the evils we've been fighting without knowing what we was up against. All of this stuff used to be kept secret. I'm dragging dirty secrets out in the open so they can be addressed. I'm showing the methodology and the formula behind their operations, what they're doing in order for us to be their victim. The easiest way to stop a person from being a victim is to expose the victimizer and his tactics. Now you got a method of defense.
And then you know what? Another thing too, and this is so important, like you said, you're doing the exposing because this is done in the dark. It's done in the dark. And so secrecy is paramount when you're doing something like this. And this is why the schools are a critical piece, as you're saying, because the children go there, they get indoctrinated, and then also they're taught to, if your child is spending hours a day, so many hours per day, listening to these teachers, these so called authorities, then they're more apt to them. And it's just the programming. And then the parents feel like, well, my child is getting an education. My child is going to, they're going to, the parents feel like the children are getting something from these people that they'll not personally give their child. And that's the programming part. Parents don't even feel like they can educate their own children. It's like a vicious cycle. So then if we just keep sending our children there, then this is just going to keep going until parents change their minds. They have to change their minds about this whole thing. This is like the last frontier. We really have to take our children back. We have to believe in ourselves again and
And that's
know
the
that we
first
can do
order
it.
of business as well. Not only the last frontier, but it's the first order of business. Look, there's a book called
Thank
Obedience
you.
to Authority. Every parent need
Mm,
to read that. Because when we
mm.
teach the children to be compliant with the authority of these people, they put your child up to do stuff by them not being able to say, "You're not my parent," right? You need to know, okay, we was taught to respect our elders.
Mm-hmm.
They use it against us.
That's right.
Okay, now we still need to teach the children to respect the
Yep.
elders. But if an elder tell you to keep something from your mama or your daddy, that's a red flag. You have to come immediately. If you have to pick a phone up wherever you at, they said don't tell you this. That secret squirrel shit, busting that shit upside the head is most critical. Because all of the victimizers rely on the silence of the victim and the blind eye of the onlooker. People will see a child getting abducted, screaming for help, and continue going by their business as if nothing's happened. Because we've been conditioned that way. Another book that goes,
Mm-hmm.
it's
I just want to make sure.
not a book, but a research program. It's called Zimbardo's Prison Study.
How do you spell that?
His name is
Zimbardo.
Joseph Zimbardo. Joseph Zimbardo, I think is his name. He did a prison study in Arizona to determine how far they can push a person without them rebelling against the orders.
I'm going to put here. These are things that uh, here's another one that's recommended, Zimbardo's Prison Study, which is
Mm.
recommended reading. Please look into that. Parents, this is very important information because, again, it's just like um, the Skinner box that Chief Rod was referencing the other day and the Pavlovian response. These are all psychological studies that were done on
And applied.
dogs, rats, and some humans, right?
Yeah.
To get people to see how far you can push humans to get them to be mind controlled or to get them to do what you want. People are actually studying this and making it their business while we're here living life and thinking everything is normal. People are studying these things to perpetrate them on the masses.
And that's why we
School
got to
is
get past
not.
the racism. The racism is
Yeah.
keeping us as adults from investigating this material because those people not us, but they telling us what's going on. When we start getting what we call conscious, you
Mhm.
have a lot of us that say, "Oh, that was wrote by a white dude. I ain't reading it."
Right.
But that's part of the racist agenda.
Mhm.
As we begin to awaken, the goal was with racism is to make us so mad that we go on a murderous rampage and kill all of the so-called white people. But the white man not white.
Mhm.
The white man is black nobility of Europe. White is
Yeah.
a legalese term just spoken in the chamber of barristers. Has nothing to do with common language. But we took black and white to definitively identify specific groups of people. That's not true. Gotta get out of that.
Okay.
We gotta get out all of the
So
hate
we're gonna.
mongering.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but I've been wanting to ask you this myself because when I started learning some things, I'm not gonna lie, I was mad. I was angry at so-called. I had angry at so-called white people. I'm not even gonna lie. It was very difficult for me.
Oh,
And so
my
pretty
thing was
soon,
kill Whitey. My whole philosophy at one point, because I couldn't see it first, but my whole
you get
philosophy, but
mad
I
because it's
couldn't
like somebody's doing this.
rationalize
You got
how
to.
I had um people in my family and people I grew up with that's the most good-hearted people you ever would want to meet. They just pale skin with stringy hair, right? I
Yeah.
couldn't rationalize that part, but the trauma. This was the equivalent of me kissing the motherfucking train at 100 miles an hour. When that motherfucking um, black nobility conquistador information began to unravel in my mind, and my feelings was hurt so bad to find out that the people behind the scenes pulling the strings look like us. I was hurt.
I'm hurt. I'm hurt just hearing it
Yeah.
because we're supposed to be the ones that are civilized.
And
That's what you know.
civilized.
I mean, the original. It's like, and you heard about, you hear about Africa's golden age, and it's like, okay, so what? It's difficult, but what I want you to just go over too is like, so how do you, I want to know how because you're the one that's bringing the information. We've all had to go through that phase where when you wake up, you feel like you don't like white people because that's
They
like the
did
initial
all this to
stage.
us.
Because they put the white faces out in front, so it's like, well, they're the ones doing it, right? So how do you rationalize, or what is your response to the fact that, I mean, it's not all white people, but some, you do see some white people actually carrying out those things. So I guess the thing is what discernment. You would say, well, you have to use your discernment. You target. So if you have an actual offense that is perpetrated by somebody who's so-called white, then that's who you focus your attention to. But don't just generalize and widespread it. Is that a fair statement?
You're absolutely correct. You
Okay.
can't never hold an entire group responsible for what a small percentage of that group does. There is nobody on earth that's not supposed to be here right now. Even the ones that's the invaders that gotta go needed to be here in order to get evicted. In order for us to
Mm-hmm.
see who's been leading us astray. So um this is all predicated upon the political dynamic. The white supremacy is a political tool of oppression. And the original white supremacy wasn't about skin color. It was about noble status and the royals of Europe being able to impose their will on the people. And all of the people of Europe, but it wasn't always pale skinned Europeans or what we call white people. White people was a legalese term. Not has nothing to do with skin color. Because if that
Mm-hmm.
was the case, we wouldn't be calling white people white. If we was calling them by skin color, they wouldn't call us black. They would
Mm-hmm.
call white people pink, beige, yellow,
Right.
or they would call us chocolate, you know what I'm saying, brown, tan, the different
Mm-hmm.
shades of the browns,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
because it's a definite caste system, it's based on the black people are defenders. Those are in chess terms. This is how they came over here to challenge us, right? The challenge comes unfolded. It unfolds when you realize that they was just using the pale faces to block us out of the institutions of learning. So all of this dirt they was doing, we could never see it. We wasn't exposed
So
to the few fat, lazy slobs in smoke-filled rooms with $50 cigars making plans on oppressing people that look like me and you and replacing us. Everybody want to be a fucking
so
Hebrew now. Everybody not Hebrew. We ain't from the fucking Middle East. Get
mhm,
that bullshit out your head. That's the oppressor's default program to send you to. He gave you three monotheistic religions that's all the same religion. Judaism,
mhm,
Christianity, and Islam is all the same religion. White supremacy.
mhm.
And it was designed under Emperor Constantine at the Nicene Council. Go back and research it and find out why he done it. He tell you. If he can harness what it is that these people believed in, put it in a bottle he could control from the grave for eternity. So they use religion. That's not spirituality, and most of us don't know the difference.
Can you just talk about that really quick? What's the difference between religion and spirituality?
Religion is based on conditioning you to repeat church every Sunday, right?
Hmm.
Pray this many times a day, perform this ceremony and that ceremony. Those are religious practices. Religious is anything done repeatedly with the same MO.
Okay.
Spirituality is overcoming the lesser side of yourself that can't see through the bullshit. You developing the higher qualities of the self. We think that all we need to do is get a job, pay our bills, and life is hunky dory.
Right.
We never take under consideration that God want warriors, God don't want wimps.
Mm.
What is he gonna do with a wimp?
Nothing. Nothing.
And the same God that's recruiting our warriors is the same one that's jealous, whose heart becomes grievously vexed because he can't control humans. That sounds like a man to me all day long.
So, another thing that I'd like to go over with, as it relates to the topic at hand, is again with like with parents who work. I know that in 2020, a lot of our families were fractured based on the issue of whether or not to get that
Yeah,
done. And so
yeah.
and even on political issues, a lot of families were divided. And so therefore, um, a lot of families now don't have that support network for the children because there's such a huge division now. So what do you, I guess the main thing would be to just start talking to neighbors or just build a new tribe, so to speak, for the children.
It
Because
should be
I know a
if
lot
your
of families were
children walk.
fractured.
In the meantime, if the children walk into school, they should have what's called designated route, and it should be a man on every corner.
Mm. That's a very good idea. That's a very, very good idea. They
That's
were
just
doing that
that's a
somewhere.
band-aid on the bullet wound, but it's better than not having no dressing at all.
Yeah, something. So then, because of the vans, like you were speaking about, and you said they park outside the schools,
Normally
like
within a block or two,
they.
they don't park like directly at the school. So let's say they want to kidnap my child. The school is
Mhm.
2 blocks from my house. They would park the van between my house and the school on the known route that the child walked. And the day they catch them by themselves, they snatch them.
Always wondered, and I've always been not that person that would allow a small child to walk um, to school by themselves at 6 years old. I never did that. But I guess some parents feel like that that's what they have to do, and I'm not judging, maybe. But that seems like a very tender age to do that. Um, but right now, I think what's important is people are going to have to change their minds about how they move uh, right now, especially since this problem is so big. We're going to have to change our minds. We're going to have to get uncomfortable because, like, what's worse? What's worse? Your baby's taken from you, right? Your baby's taken from you. You'll probably never see him again. And if you do, you're severely traumatized, or just getting a little uncomfortable and stepping outside of your comfort zone, making some changes. Um, Even if the family's been fractured, making new connections, getting out there talking, seeing what you can do in your community, doing things building. I'm here in California. I do have, my contact information for those who need support. I've always said I'm here to support. But women, yeah, we need to get our heads together and figure this out. There's a lot of good women out here that will support. You just have to start feeling like you can trust and you can talk. And you have to use your discernment and feel with your heart, really look into a person's soul to see if they are on the right vibration, because we all need children need support. This is such a big deal. If we don't stick together and figure it out, then a lot more children are going to be victimized, and that's just not good. I mean, I'm basically trying to hold it together and not get all looking about this, but my soul is disturbed by this. You know what I mean? It's very disturbing. I get so angry when I think about this. I have two children. Even I had my firstborn in the hospital, and they were talking about this is before I knew. I had my second at home, but I had my firstborn in the hospital, and they were like, "You want to take him to the little nursery?" I was like, mm-mm. I had like a little I had a sheet tied to the little bassinet. I was tired, I was sleepy, but I was like, no. And then I even put my baby in my bed, and I was just tired, but I put him right there in the little bed next to me because I didn't trust any of this, because you just never know. There's so many stories about stuff happening in hospitals, and now it's the schools. And if what Chief Rod Hayes is saying, these people survive off of this. So it's like you any chance with your children, it's not worth it. You have to find a way. You have to find a way. I'm not trying to sound judgmental. I'm not trying to sound holier than thou. I'm not. I have my struggles. We all do. It's different. And this show is about you and what you bring to the table. But I get on a soapbox, so
No, I do too.
I
See,
apologize.
they've been calling me crazy for years for telling it when people see. I used to when volunteer information, you would have had to ask, and most
Okay.
people didn't know all of the shit that I knew.
Mm,
So, like, um, the girls at work, unionized labor. The union hall is supposed to be your daycare center too.
mm,
The the union hall is supposed to be where the husbands that work wives is at the union hall educating children.
mm,
We don't use them for what they're supposed to be used for because we've been taught that don't worry about your child. They're okay in public education. Don't worry, we the
mm,
trained professionals. But they don't tell you that they train professionals in spotting and identifying um, problem families whose children are easy pickings, low hanging fruit. Pub, uh, public Child Protective Services, Department of Family and Human Services, the Department of Human Service, DHS, DHFS, they are trafficking agencies who have been caught red handed in the process of trading and selling children.
wow,
This is not a secret.
crazy. This is, but this is what we're up against. This is what
Mhm.
we're up against. And, the family is in a superior position because we actually have physical custody of our own children. It's just we rely on that every day for so many hours, and it's consistently done. And so, this is why once you see this, you have to, it's just vital. Even if you feel comfortable, I don't think it's worth it. it anymore. I don't think it's not worth it anymore to use any of these institutions. It's not worth it. There's so much information and it's just staring us right in the face. And I used to be one of those people like you who, who would not speak out unless somebody asked. Now, because I used to be shot down for just saying, oh, we already know that you're talking too much. You're talking to us like we don't know. You're talking to us
And
like
that's
we
the
don't
crazy
already know
part
that.
is the amount of parents that actually know and still send their children to school will boggle your mind.
It's the
How can
programming
I
because
know?
it's denial. Hmm?
It's willful neglect is what it is. There's no way that I can know what's going on and participate.
And you know what? It's I just feel it's like learned helplessness, right? Where you
So
just feel like, well, there's nothing I can do about it now. I mean, it's just it is what it is.
that's the system. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Follow along with the script. Don't make waves. Don't be a rabble rouser. Don't be a instigator, an agitator. Don't try to wake nobody else up because then you become a target.
It is. It is. It's the deep program from childhood. You, you know that. You went to public school, right?
Yeah, till they kick me out.
But I went to public school too, and they do teach you that. They tell you, stay quiet, don't be raising your hand too much, don't be asking all questions, right? So the programming goes really deep, and so you don't even realize you're perpetrating the same crap as an adult, and now you just do the same thing. And people need to wake up. People need to wake up. Let me see if there's any
Question.
questions. Okay. Okay. It looks like there are not any questions at this time, but um, I just want you to know that I really appreciate all of your efforts and what you're doing to wake people. This is not easy. It's not like some rosy topic to talk about. It's a very difficult one. It's very ugly. And people don't want to know or face such evil in the world. And it's bad. And it's being perpetrated on our children. But I just want to thank you for, again, thank you for everything that you're doing to raise the consciousness of of all of all people. Um, is there anything else you would like to share? I can share your contact information. I want to make sure that people can find you on your here you are right here.
Like that's my
So
Instagram.
this is our brother on Instagram, and then here.
Facebook is
What about
Gerard
this one?
Hayes.
Correct?
That's my old that's my
Do I
old
have it?
Instagram. Yeah, that'll take you to my
Now this is
Facebook page.
Facebook.
On
That's good.
Facebook,
Are we good with that?
mm-hmm. So on Facebook, when you on my page, um, all of my posts are receipts. Some
Yes.
of them, a lot of them
Yes.
have descriptions of what they receipts for.
Okay. 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 So I just want to make sure you all know how to follow and get updates on our brother's social media pages. And there's lots of good information there. I'm always learning stuff every day and finding out some of these things. And this will keep you posted on uh, the topic at hand today. Our brother's always posting information related to today's topic about the dark side of education. Is there anything else you want to share with the family before we close out?
Yeah, your children is the future. If you don't secure the child, If you don't look out for the interest and the well-being of your child, you are destroying the future by willful neglect. Everything that you do to secure the child is the efforts you putting into securing the future for future generations. It is our tradition on the land from the Americas that we create as an elder a future that will be able to benefit our children for 7 generations. Right. So anything that's not being done to give them a 7 generational head start is a direct opposite. It's a what they call a sabotage for the future. They don't want us to be aware of the things that I talk about. And that's why a lot of times I gotta not use certain words and not call certain 3 letter groups out while I'm getting this information out. But people need to know who they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to know about the gay agenda, the agenda to convert children in elementary age into a gender identity crisis,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you got already got us over here with an identity crisis, identifying with motherfuckers with an identity crisis. This is a cycle. They identifying with us in our confusion, and out of that confusion, they create their own illusions and delusions, and then we follow the pattern that they laying out in the open. So we need to protect the children because protecting the children is the only way to guarantee a prosperous future for our progeny. Everything
That's
we
right.
do in this life is just it ain't for us.
No.
It's for these babies 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8 years and younger who's gonna inherit
Yeah.
the fuck up
Yeah.
or the cleanup. I'd rather for them to inherit the cleanup than the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're already talking about how there's people are not, there's like a baby slowdown, like people aren't having
Yeah,
children
that's
because,
yeah, but that's not really true,
okay.
right? What's really going on is the children that are being snatched is leaving holes in communities and they have to explain it.
Mm.
So if there's a baseline of 800,000 children every year in just the United States, that doesn't count Canada, Mexico, or South America or the islands,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
800,000 children consistently coming up missing every year. It's not hard to find. Google how many children come up missing every year, and they're gonna tell you approximately 800,000 children a year. That's a quota. That's a quota.
Oh. Oh my God.
It can't stay consistent unless it's an absolute baseline for something. It's a quota, and the Department of Child Protective Services is neck deep. If they're not in over their head, they at least neck deep in it. They like to take advantage of young single mothers' ignorance and fears. So the older mothers are the ones that we need to teach the younger mothers the right way to protect their children because they got the
Yeah.
experience. But they tell the
Mm-hmm.
young mothers, don't listen to them old ladies in your neighborhood telling you how to assist you in raising your child. We used to have women, when children go into school in the morning, the whole neighborhood, women would be sitting on the front porch, winter, summer,
Mm-hmm.
spring, fall, to watch the children. And then they had certain houses
Mm-hmm.
that were safe houses,
Yeah.
right? And everybody in the neighborhood knew where these houses was,
Yeah.
and they knew to tell their child,
Yeah.
go to Miss Annie house or go to Miss Barbara house if you get in trouble on the way home from school.
Yes.
That's the safe house,
Yes.
right? What we
Yes.
calling
Yes.
a town hall meeting used to be a matriarch meeting. The women used to come together in local towns and form a city council, but it was always the women. The mayor is a female horse. She's leading the
Right.
local, whereas the elephants is leading the larger groups. The what we would call him a governor now. The governor is supposed to be represented by the female elephant, and they just stole so much stuff from us and misconstrued our history to the point where we don't even recognize when they're using our original structure and they're replacing women with men.
Mm. You know what? I know. I just remembered something. I know we said we were getting ready to go, but I just saw an interesting video the other day where there was a so-called white woman small daughter that if she ever got lost to go find the biggest black men she could find and tell that man. Did you see that video?
Yep.
What
And
do
I
you think
seen a
about that?
dude that was a white guy did an analysis of the video. He said she right, and let me
Right.
tell you why. And the
Yeah.
reason that he gave her is when you
Hmm.
look at the safest adult for a child to be around, it's a melanated man. The non-melanated man is
Yep.
the highest risk.
Look, and I know some just based on statistics, but I agree with that statement because and he actually said, you know what? He told me a story after I showed him that video. He told me a story of when he was younger, before he had any children. There was a little so-called white girl that got lost in the mall, and she came right up to him and was like, you know, rubbing on his leg like help, and he picked her up and took her into the store and said, "This girl is lost." And then the parents came and they were like, "Thank you," but yes, yes, and I know a few black men that live around here. I know children would be very safe with them, and I would trust my children if my babies were lost. So I agree wholeheartedly with that statement, but I think it's good. I think it's good. So I'm just grateful for you. And again, I don't see any questions, and I know that you are very in demand. You're a father, and you have other obligations, and you could have been doing anything else, but you chose to spend time with me here today talking about this very important subject, and I really appreciate that. So thank you very much, and maybe we can get together some other time later on down in the future, down the line.
Hmm.
But I appreciate you, and thank you all for joining us today. And we'll see you next time on Bringing It Home with C and Smith.
Hmm. Thank you, Dakota.
Thank you.